Welcome back to another episode of Looks Like a Movie. This is the grand return of Owen. Owen is back.
Woo.
But this podcast is a two-person show.
Yeah, we gotta
So
do a trade.
yeah, we had a trade. Owen could come back, but Kevin had to leave. So it's
Yeah.
just me and Owen this week, but it's fine because we are talking about, as we've been hinting for weeks, about a month
Yes.
now, we are finally talking about the best movie of the year, The Shrouds, written and directed by David Cronenberg, starring Vincent Castle and Diane Kruger. Um, so you saw. Wait, before we get into that, what did you watch this week, Owen?
Oh, okay.
um,
All right. Yes. before we get into the the shrouds, we can do our segment that we have done
yeah, that we do
for
in this
like
show
100 times.
over a hundred
So
times,
today
well
is
over a hundred
the
times actually.
what episode is this? 120? Are we there yet? Not there yet. 100.
120 Blaze It.
No. What number are we?
Damn, on this asking me on the spot is fucked up.
I'm up here trying to get these movies.
Looks like a movie. Hold on, let me little check.
Yeah.
This is episode 117.
Okay, so almost at that 120 mark.
120 Blaze It.
Okay, so I'm just gonna, as I wasn't here last week, but I there's too many movies to go that far back, so I'm just gonna do this week. I watched this movie, Play It Again, Sam, which is a movie directed by Herbert Ross, from 1972, the director of Footloose, the original Footloose movie. But this is basically a Woody Allen movie. It's written by Woody Allen. It stars Woody Allen and Diane Keaton, but it's just not directed by Woody Allen. 72 was like that's an early period for Woody. He had directed films by then, but he hadn't really came into his own because like Annie Hall came out in like 77. So
Yeah.
it's early Woody Allen, but it's a weird kind of somebody else's director. I don't really know the reasoning for that, but that's just
How many
the case there.
movies starring Woody Allen have you seen?
Well, I've seen. I don't know the exact number on because some of the movies that he directs, he's not in. I've seen like 22 of his directorial movies.
Okay.
But like he's not in all of them, so
Right.
I have to check the acting thing because I haven't seen a lot of like he's not in a lot that he's not directing. I know he's in one of the James Bond movies,
Yeah.
and then he's like in Ants. So there's a couple other ones, but most of the time it's like a movie he's directing. But that movie's good. It's not like I kind of feel like it fits in his filmography as just like a Woody Allen movie, and I would say it's like in the middle of that group. But it's like it's still good. I watched some other stuff, and then I watched the Last Days of Disco.
You watched this twice.
I did
I
with
saw.
Stillman. I've been meaning to watch this for a while, and I wanted to. It was something I threw on because I've been kind of slowing down with school stuff, and so I've been having a little more time to watch movies and get put all of my energy into working on the movie stuff. So I was just kind of throwing a bunch of stuff on that I just had access to, which was fun. And this is one that I wanted to check out. And this was like a fun kind of like you turn in one of the last assignments and kind of turn this one on. And I really fell in love with Whit Stillman's writing style. He's an incredible writer. And I kept getting Walt Whitman, the writer, and Whit Stillman. Like that was like really throwing me for a loop. I was getting like it was bad. I was keep confusing them. But Walt Stillman, or Whit Stillman, fine, Whit Stillman.
What does Whit Stillman do?
Like
is he like a playwright?
Whit Stillman, the director.
Yeah, well, he's 70 years old and he's directed 4 movies.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. Like, what does he do?
Yeah, I'm not. That was also my one of my initial reactions to him because I was assuming like he had to be like a writer of some sort because it's a very literary filmmaking, in terms of. So I'm not really sure. I know like he started filmmaking a little maybe later, than you would think, and then he kind of raised all the money to make these films, and then I really like his work and there's a element of it because I watched like a bunch of I watched three of his films, or I think three of his films, in this week, and I like the element of he reuses a lot of the same actors, and there's one actor, I'm forgetting the name of Chris Eigman, maybe that might be his pronunciation. But I like this idea of like you see it with a lot of different directors. They use the same actors, but with someone like Whit Stillman, he might use the same guy in three movies, but that guy might not really act outside of those movies. So he becomes like the Brad Pitt of the Whit Stillman universe, but
Right.
he's not
Right.
like famous or in a lot of other movies. So you come to like you kind of fall in love with the guy, and you're like, oh, this is I love this guy. This is a great actor, but then he's not really in anything. So it's an interesting like pocket universe where he's super famous in these three movies, but he's not really existing outside of them. But Last Days of Disco is my favorite, just because it's so grand. And there's just like I'm assuming the music budget had to be ridiculous because it's like there's just it's a lot of dialogue, but there's a really popular disco song playing in pretty much every scene. So it's really fun. Um, and there, Kate Beckinsale is really great. Like you said, I saw it twice. I watched it with my mom yesterday, and she really found her Kate Beckinsale funny because she's constantly like insulting people, but like in like a nice way. Like she's trying to like say something. Like, it's a sugar coated insult, and she's constantly just insulting
Yeah.
people.
You need
Um,
to tap into the Underworld series.
with Kate Beckinsale.
Yeah.
But she's great. As a lot among Chloe Sevigny is the lead. She's fantastic as well. And Mackenzie Aston plays Jimmy Steinway, who's Sean Astin's brother from Lord of the Rings, which is
Yeah.
great. Uh, so I watched that, and then I watched Metropolitan, which is Whit Stillman's debut film, which is a similar kind of like yuppie, young rich, group of people in young rich white group of people in New York that like have it just they feel like they have way too much money for their age, so it's like weird. So the way they talk and the kind of environment that they may be in is suited more for an older group of people, so that they feel
Yeah.
like kids in suits almost. They feel like teenagers dressing up to act like some like high class rich people, but they're really just kind of like spoiled young people. And it's very interesting look at a group that I don't really see in most films. It's just like that kind of demographic isn't really touched on as much. And it's just like American kind of like rich, young kind of trash, which is interesting. And it's all again brilliantly written
Yeah.
stuff. And then Barcelona, what were you gonna say?
No, I was just gonna say I'm very aware of these movies, but I haven't
Yeah,
watched them.
Barcelona is a lot of people think this is his best movie, but it's an interesting look because it's you have these American yuppie guys, and they're going to Barcelona, and there's that kind of like culture clash of these people in Barcelona, and then these like kind of like shitty American dudes, and then that's like because a lot of times when in these other films you're seeing these people like kind of in their groups and they're not as challenged as they are in Barcelona, where in Barcelona it's like a direct kind of clash of like ideological kind of people and their kind of beliefs and stuff like that. So that one's good. Not my favorite. I still like Last Days of Disco, but I think that one has like a really strong kind of. It's very like Americans versus anti-Americans and that kind of. It's very interesting, but yeah, a lot of the same actors in that one as well. So you kind of get that through line. And then I watched Love and Death, which was a Woody Allen I haven't seen, and I in the Discord on it looks like a movie Discord. I'm actually gonna pull up who it was, but someone put their Woody Allen ranked. I'm trying to find it. It was
Yeah, a
Kev
lot of
B.
chats up here.
Kev B in the Discord put their Woody Allen ranked, and they had Love and Death at one, I think.
Mhm.
And so I was like, oh, I haven't seen this one, and high praise, so I'll check it out. And I really did like this one. It's most of Woody Allen's movies are in a similar setting, and this one, there was like a whole assassination of Napoleon's thing going on, and there's like you're in Russia, and it's like
Okay.
it's a period piece, but it's also like very aware and kind of you're making fun of the era. But it's like a very elaborate set design and costumes and stuff. And then Woody Allen, is after war, and it's a fun difference. And when you're watching a lot of these Woody Allen movies, a lot of them can feel very similar in the kind of locations stuff like that. So it's cool. He has another. There's a Woody Allen movie called Bolts Over Broadway, which is another kind of period piece, but it's a different. This is like a super far back compared to like Bolts Over Broadway, just maybe a couple decades back. So I did like that a lot, just because of the kind of uniqueness in his catalog. And then I watched Bringing Up Baby, the Howard Hawks film. This was just kind of out of, you know, you hear a lot about it. It's great. You hear it's great, and it's just on like the Plex account, and you're like, okay, let's throw this on,
It's
right?
just on Lex account, something that
Yeah,
everybody could relate to.
it's just on. Maybe I think, yeah, because I was watching a lot of like Criterion stuff, and just like I
Yeah.
would look on anything that was on. I had like instant access to. So I watched Bring Up Baby, which I really loved. Really, I want to like go kind of research maybe into the behind the scenes of this film, because there's a leopard in this film. It's a big baby. This is a leopard, and it's very there's the way that they kind of are without. We talked about dog acting in the past, but this is
Like
a different
big
element of
cat
like
acting.
yeah. Well,
Yeah.
there's like
Yeah.
even like there's sequences where there's a different leopard, and this leopard is like kind of evil, and it's like you're putting these people in like very harmful situations, and we wondered. I wonder how that all went behind the scenes. But fantastic movie. I really love this. Catherine Hepburn and Cary Grant are like unreal. They're really fantastic performances from them. And then I watched Breathless. I rewatched it because it's been like 3 years, and I've kind of went through Godard's catalog kind of sporadically, but have seen a lot more of his movies in the past 3 years. So I did want to revisit that. Also wanted to revisit it just for kind of the stuff I've been working on. It was like kind of essential that I go back and watch this movie. And it was definitely like a different viewing experience than I probably had 3 years ago, where like I was definitely picking up a lot of different things, and just the editing is very fascinating. Um, so yeah, Breathless, great movie.
Yeah, the editing is very fascinating. It's yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
it
yeah,
invented a new way to edit a
yeah. No,
movie.
it's
Yeah.
great, good stuff. And then I rewatched another just on Criterion. Uh, you haven't seen this one, I don't think, but it's an early Francis Ford Coppola movie. You're a Big Boy Now.
Oh,
Uh,
yes. Yeah.
which this movie is really fun. I had seen it before, and I
I
wanted to
don't
go
really
back.
know a lot about this.
It's very French New Wave inspired. It's
Okay.
it's interesting, but it is an interesting, like, you have this like kind of almost oh, what's that guy's name? I'm blanking on the Jerry Lewis. It's a very like Jerry Lewis main character, but he's kind
Okay.
of like this kind of loser, like virgin guy who like his parents like kind of babysit him, and or like not babysit, like they baby him.
You can relate.
They like baby, and then they buy him like an apartment, and yeah, he's in the city, and he's trying to like grow up. I guess it's very like kind of zany, and it's an early film for Francis. It's interesting that he would make it. It's I don't know. It kind of stands alone in the filmography almost, and a lot of people don't really
Yeah.
talk about it. But
Well, this is
I
like
think it is
one of
good.
his first actual movies.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I do think it is good.
Damn, the 60s. He's old as
Yeah,
fuck.
yeah. Well, that's what I was thinking. I'm pretty sure that movie and like an early Woody Allen movie count like this. I don't think it's like the one with the tiger or something. One of the ones I haven't seen, but it's like a really early Woody Allen. And it's very interesting to could think of those guys like as like kind of they both make their first movie around the same time, and how like those guys are so old, but they're still around kicking. But
Yeah.
that one's good. I watched A Gentle Woman, which is one of the Bressons I haven't seen. And this is probably one of my least favorites. I think it's fine, but I wasn't crazy about it. It's about like this. It kind of opens with like this guy's wife committing suicide, and then it
Yeah.
goes, like, back to, like, when they first met and kind of plays their relationship until she commits suicide and, like, what led
Oh,
up to
right.
the reasoning about that. Yeah, it was alright. It was still good, like, there's a lot of directorial things that I really did enjoy, but, it's just not my favorite out of his catalog. I think it's, if not his first, one of his first, like, color films. Um, and then I watched Real Life, the Albert Brooks movie, which I thought was interest I wanted to kind of I thought it was an interesting film to watch because of what I'm working on, because it's, like, kind of reality TV and, like, let's just film people and, see what we get, and kind of, like, whatever we get is kind of good. But then
Right.
it's kind of, like, about how, like, the filmmaker is, like, super narcissistic, and, like, the filmmaking, the reality TV aspect of these people's life is, like, ruining their life, and, like, they're going insane, and it's kind of a really fucked up version of that, what's that movie where it's, Jim Carrey?
Oh, The Truman Show.
Yeah, it's like The
Yeah.
Truman Show, if it was, like, really, like, black comedy, Albert Brooks, like, but way more like reality TV, like, they're aware of it. Like, the guys are in their house, and they're trying to have, like, dinner, and there's just, like, people, like, wearing cameras, like, on their heads, just, like,
Yeah.
standing there. It's very funny, but it's also, like, it's very interesting because they never, like, from the day one of the actual filming in the movie, um, they're, like, never happy or, like, okay, like, fine with it. Like, from they get off the plane, and they get in their car, and they're immediately, like, kinda distraught about this idea of, like, people, like, filming in their home. And then it just, like, spirals, and it kinda gets insane. But I do like Albert Brooks's movies. I think he's an interesting filmmaker, so it's cool to check that one out. I know a lot of people really like that one a lot. Um, and I watched Exotica,
Mm.
which I know a lot of people like. This is like one of those movies which is, I feel like you would never really hear about it. And then it's like on Letterboxd, it's like your friend's rating is like a 4.5 or something.
Yeah.
It's like a super like, Letterboxd core kind of movie. But I did enjoy it. I think it is a good film. And then I watched a documentary about painting, and then I rewatched The Last Days of Disco, and then I rewatched The Shrouds for this. So it was a big week of just like, I'm just gonna throw on a bunch of stuff and get some watching in because I haven't had the time to kind of do that in a while. So I was just kind of, all my time was spent kind of watching movies, which was good.
Yeah, no, that's jolly. I did not have a big the week before this, I
Yeah,
watched quite a bit.
mhm.
I was very kind of happy with myself with how much I watched.
Me
Not
and
so
you.
much this
Yeah.
week. But I did I watched We Own the Night, which is a James Gray movie.
Oh
I
yeah.
was talking to one of our friends, and like we were just talking, and he was like, "Hey, turn this movie on right now," and I was like, "Okay," and then I just watched the entire movie.
Yeah.
Uh, really, 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 really good movie. I was not familiar with James Gray's game, like
Yeah.
even a little bit. Like I know people talk about some of these movies, like
Mhm.
The Lost City of Z and Ad Astra and Armageddon Time, as being like, oh, these are really great movies, but it's like, without sounding like an asshole or being too rude, like I didn't know if it was like actually a really great movies, or if it's like, you know, you know, you know how it is. Because those movies are pretty popular.
Sure.
But no, We Own the Night, which is okay. It came out in 2007, right?
Mhm.
Um, in 2006, The Departed comes out and wins Best Picture. So The Departed is about uh, Mark Wahlberg is a police officer.
Yep.
And The Departed takes place in Boston, but Mark Wahlberg is a police officer. Leonardo DiCaprio has to go like undercover for the police, do something he doesn't really want to do, right? Uh, and it kind of ruins his entire life. And We
Yeah.
Own the Night. Mark Wahlberg is a police officer, right? It comes out
Mhm.
1 year later. Mark Wahlberg
Yeah.
is a police officer. He has a relationship with Joaquin Phoenix. He pulls Joaquin Phoenix into the police force. Joaquin Phoenix has to go undercover, and it ruins his entire life. It's and like that's kind of like where all the similarities like end mostly. But the movie
Sure.
got kind of kind of panned because it came out a year
I
after
say
The
that, yeah.
Departed, and everybody was like, "Oh, you just ripped off The Departed," even though this
Yeah.
is much. It's not as entertaining. The Departed's like a cartoon, right? And I love The Departed. I won't say negative things about it, but it's The Departed is a very entertaining movie. It's kind of like a cartoon. We Own the Night is like very serious and like not like a cartoon, but there's some real incredible performances in this. This is like Joaquin Phoenix's best performance, I think, and there's some really kind of special filmmaking. There's like a car chase,
Mhm.
car, not really a car chase. It's more just like a car sequence,
Yeah.
like a car set piece that is like unbelievable. It is like insane. Uh, the last third of this movie just kind of goes like ridiculous, like God mode. It's I don't know, really good movie. The whole movie's about like Joaquin Phoenix, the club owner, but
Mhm.
and not he's a club manager, but then the
Okay.
club owner is like a part of the mafia, and then Robert Duvall is his dad, and he's the chief of police, and then
Yeah.
uh, and then Mark Wahlberg is his brother, who's like a detective,
Mhm.
right? So then like his life kind of gets all fucked up because of this, because they're trying to go after his boss, and like they don't know that his family's police, and then stuff happens, and then he has to make hard choices. It's
Sure.
very good. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's really good. Yeah, so I watched that, and then I rewatched Green Snake, Chow
Mhm.
Hawk, a movie that you watched recently. That shit's so crazy, bro. That shit's so good. That's all I'll say. That shit is so good. And then I rewatched Mission Impossible the other day. I watched it with I listened to the John Woo audio commentary,
Okay.
um, which is so. I love the way John Woo talks in English. It's
Oh, okay,
very
so it's and
fun.
I was gonna ask 'cause
Yeah, it's in English, and it's basically a lot of him being like, Tom, I shouldn't do this, but it's like he's like, Tom told me that he was gonna do this stunt, and I was like, no, 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 you can't do this stunt. It is too dangerous. And it's like, but then he convinced me, and it's like a lot of that, and the audio commentary, it's really awesome. Um, yeah, that movie is great. That movie's great. And that was it. I was doing, I've been busy doing life's coming down. But
Yeah.
yeah, but I watched those. Um, yeah, and now we're here. Now I'm talking to you
Now
face to
we're
face.
here. Now we're
Yeah.
here.
So David Cronenberg's The Shrouds. You saw this movie 10 months ago. No, like 9 months
A
ago,
long time ago.
at the New York Film Festival.
Mhm.
Um, how was that?
It was good. I liked revisiting it just because, and we've talked about this before, but, like, there's an element of the festival where it's like you're watching a lot of good movies that, everything kind of starts to, blend together, and you can't really it's tough to critically kind of engage with something when you've just watched, like, 6 other great films, that you're just, like, all new and there's something like that, and it was good to revisit it now and kind of it almost like, "Oh, yeah, this is really great." Like, there's something about, like, okay, yeah, removing it from that context and just kind of engaging it with it like this, kind of solidifies its, you know, value and how good it is. But yeah, it was great. David Cronenberg was there, which was cool. It was also like, that was one of the films that I like was super excited to see. So I even like I stayed like an extra day or two because I know you guys didn't see it. Some of you guys didn't see it because it was like the way that the schedule was.
Yeah, it
It
was.
was just
Yeah,
like not. But yeah, it was a good movie. It's a good movie. It's a good movie. But yeah, it's weird talking about it now. Just because how well it's always been like we're talking about how like it's the best movie of the year or whatever.
but
And
you
I
saw it
saw it.
last year. You
Yeah,
saw
it's
it like
like
a yeah.
it's very it's almost but yeah. Well, I mean, we'll talk about it.
Yeah, well, I have seen this movie twice. I
Mm.
watched, I don't know. I mean, a the movie.
Was it? Is it officially online now or no? Like, what's the
No, it's
dealio?
not.
It's not on.
It's
Okay.
not. No.
It's still it was like a weird release. There's a weird
It
release.
materialized on the internet
Yeah,
a little
it's
while ago, and I watched it like that before it
mhm.
released in theaters. And then I went back and I've seen it in theaters now.
Yeah.
I really think this movie is very special.
Uh-huh.
I I should have done more to
Research.
prepare for
Yeah.
this. because I don't know all of the context surrounding David Cronenberg's real life and how
Sure.
that's in conversation with the film, but I do know that his wife did pass away in real
Yeah.
life, and this movie is kind of like explicitly in conversation with his grief, right?
Sure.
And like David Castle is a kind of an obvious Cassell.
Well,
No,
you said
sorry,
David. You said
Vincent Cassell.
Vincent Cassell is
Yeah,
what you said. You
yeah.
said
Sorry,
David
I'm sorry, I'm
Castle,
sorry.
which is like that's a different that's a
Wow,
like
wow,
a
wow, wow.
separate
Yeah, yeah.
third
I
guy.
just made up a new guy. No, Vincent Cassell is kind of like an obvious stand-in for
Yeah.
Cronenberg here, to the point where when his face is in shadows for a couple of these shots, he looks identical to Cronenberg.
Yeah.
I think.
Um, he talked about this, and I think part of it is like a happy accident, but also like it's he's kind of put it as like, okay, my wife died, and I wouldn't have been able to make this movie without that, right? Like that is like the stem of like why I started writing this. But it's like autobiographical in the way that like if you're like a writer director, like everything you do is autobiographical. But
Right.
it wasn't like it's like maybe in bad not in bad faith, but it's like not exactly like it's not it's like it's not like so there is like I think an element of like hiring Vincent to be the lead
Yeah.
isn't it's not like it looks like him, but like there's not like that wasn't really the intention. I think it kind of just happened. Like I don't know, there may be depending on like what you believe on that. That's kind of how he says it. It's kind of like that wasn't like his idea.
He just
Uh,
accidentally hired a guy that looks like
well, they
just
worked.
like
I
him.
mean, they worked
Yeah.
together a
No, I
lot.
know,
Like
I know.
that's why I'm
Yes.
saying like it's like
Yeah.
that could have been like a reasoning to cast him like years ago, and it kind of is just a stemming onto that. But it is. I mean, it's a very personal film, and I was listening to a couple interviews of it, and he was reading a lot of books on grief, and he was kind of like, "This isn't exactly my experience," and that's kind of the stemming of the film. Is like a lot of people talk like he was. I forget what book he was referencing, but he was talking about like a lot of things we're talking about, like I miss someone's voice or I miss,
Right.
their whatever, But he was talking about like how, his filmmaking is very much about the body, and he was talking about how like that was a part of it. Like it's like they're no longer here. You can't physically touch them. And that's like the body begins with then it leads into the voice, and like that's all part of the same thing. It's like because people talk about okay, I miss someone's voice. You can't have a voice without the body. So there's that. That's a
No,
big part of it.
yeah, that's part of what really struck me with this film, is that the movie is so well, the what's the character's name? The Karsh character,
Yeah.
the our Vincent Castle character. He like his wife passes away, and he is like he
Oh.
misses her so much, but he does not miss her in like kind of the traditional way
Mhm.
that we kind of talk about grief, I guess, or how
Yeah.
the people talk about missing somebody. What like
Yeah.
he so explicitly like misses her physical body, and it's about
Mhm.
like um and I was thinking about it. It's the movie kind of feels like Cronenberg asking, how does somebody like me, right? How does somebody like me grieve in the modern day, like in
Yep.
the digital world,
Mhm.
right? And he's kind of thinking about how, like, you know, well, I miss her body. So how do I capture her body even when she's dead? And he comes up with this like insane MRI like
Yeah.
shroud. It's like,
Yeah.
yeah, what if you bury somebody in an MRI machine basically? And you get like constant updates on an app on your phone. And it's like,
Yeah.
that's a crazy idea, right? Because I don't think most people think they want to see the dead body. They want that distance.
Yeah, I mean, even open casket, closed casket sort of thing, like, it's like,
No,
that's
yeah.
such a
Well, even an open casket, it's like the body, the mortician dresses the body,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
Because
yeah, it's
what
not
a,
like the
a
it's
dead
not
body's
yeah, yeah,
gross,
yeah,
Yeah,
sure.
they make
That
it presentable.
there you go, yeah.
Yeah,
It's he did, like, so much research on, like, different cultures and on, like, how they kind of 'cause different places you go, they have a different kind of burial, um there's a different way to do things, and I think it's interesting, originally, it was supposed to be a Netflix series, That
I
was
didn't know, I did
you
not
didn't you
know
didn't
that.
oh, okay, so you didn't
Or maybe
okay.
I forgot, but that's
Yeah,
crazy.
very interesting, and he wrote, like, 2 episodes, and it was gonna be a little different. It's the same kind of idea, but he originally was like the idea was gonna be 8 episodes, and the Vincent Cassel character would gonna be in, like, different countries in each or different places in the world, like,
Yeah.
8 different episodes, and there was gonna be, like, a lot of, like, he was, like, it was kinda like, kind of discovering, like, the different ways like, he was trying to make these, like, kind of things, like, whatever, like, I forget what they're called, like, shrouds?
The Shrouds. I
Yeah,
don't know
there
what
you
they're called.
go. Well, he was trying to make these things and, like, kinda sell them in these different places, and the different kind of religions and, societies would react to the kind of ways differently, which
Right.
but there was all the, like so then it was like, but then he had to change it. He changed it into a movie, um, after, like, Netflix was like because he was talking about, like, how it was probably gonna be too expensive. They never said that, like, but he was talking about how, like, doing 8 different countries for 8 episodes is probably gonna be too expensive, for that. That was kind of the original idea, but there's a lot of, like, research and ideas, and he was thinking a lot about, like, cultures and the way that we kind of think about the dead, and he's very approaching it from, like, his kind of, like, atheist point of view of, like, when you're dead, you're gone, like, that's it, but there's like that body thing, like the different kind of response of like, okay, if they're dead, they're in heaven, and we'll see them later. There's like kind of this like they're gone forever. Like this that kind of there's definitely that kind of point of view of his kind of
They're
attack
gone
approaching.
forever, in a way, but this movie it kind of the
Yeah, well, it's like
character in the
holding
movie
on
is,
to
like,
that.
challenging that, yeah.
Yeah.
Where it's like, but with both not only like the really obvious thing, which is the literal body, like
Yeah.
to watch over this body now,
Hmm.
like an object,
Hmm.
but also the AI, the honey, right?
Hmm.
Which is like modeled after
Yeah.
his late wife and has like her voice and all of those things.
Did you
That's
see, I forget what it was. It was some, like, AI guy who was, like, forgiving his, like, murderer or something, and it was like,
I did see that.
okay,
That's
so
crazy.
there's an interesting connection to that and Honey because when creating Honey, there was it's like because Honey's very cartoonish, right? And
Yes,
that
yeah.
was Cronenberg's concept was like he didn't want to make Honey too realistic. Like he could have very easily just made Diane Kruger on the thing talk to him, but there's just almost like it's resemblance of his dead wife, but it isn't too like exact where it's like uncanny valley and like weird. It's just like
Yeah.
I want like a little it's like when some people have like, certain things of their like dead relative that like remind them of them, but aren't like, her face talking to you, which is like a very, jarring. So it's like it's very interesting how like the real life version of it might be like even like more bizarre and like weird. But there's kind of this difference in the kind of cartoonish honey, which it's like nice and helpful. It's also, but it's like Siri. If like Siri was like your dead relative, like helping you out.
Yeah. No, it's like he has an AI assistant, which is something that people have talked about for a long time, and we're just
Mm.
now kind of getting
Yeah,
into people like it catching up to this, where like you could have something like Honey is still very advanced in this movie. We don't have like
sure.
people aren't really using stuff like that advanced as assistants, but it is like you know it's happening, and he shot this movie a few years ago.
Yeah.
um, yeah, and obviously, and he we're bouncing around a little bit, but
Sure.
there's a
Yeah,
lot of
there's a
there's
lot
a
of
lot
things
of
to talk about.
yeah. So a big thing that people like to talk about online, or I guess just in general about movies, is how people are scared of phones. People are
Oh,
scared
yeah, yeah, yeah.
of phones in movies, right?
Mhm,
And there's a lot of examples, even like I think good examples of technology use in movies, like Decision to Leave, right? The Park Chan
mhm.
Wook movie, where he has like really like creative, like thinking outside the box of how to incorporate
Yeah.
using phones and text messages as communication as part of like the film. I think that Cronenberg is much braver than even that, which doesn't shy away from movies in the sense
Yeah,
where like Cronenberg is sticking the camera right up against the phone, and you're just looking at that phone for five
yeah.
minutes.
It reminds me a lot of kind of some early cinema like shots where like there's certain things in like La Rue or something, where it's like either, it's image where you just see the hand and it's like a still frame of the hand. The hand doesn't move at all, but the thing in the palm moves.
Right.
Or like you're looking at like a watch or like a mirror or something, and there's like a static frame, but the thing in like there's like a small it's like a kind of a masking tool, but you're seeing everything.
Yeah.
So it's very similar to that, where like the hand, like that the Vincent Cassel's hand isn't moving really, but the like thing on the actual phone is moving, and they're
Yeah.
great shots. I really, but I think it's very interesting hearing him talk about the technology, where he was kind of like, "This is just your real life. This is just how real life
No, it
is."
is. It is. And I think it's this is what I mean, it's like brave is such a I
Yeah,
don't
it
think
was
that
in
brave is like the right
comparison
word.
to the rest of, kind of his
Yeah.
peers and stuff like that.
He's more like he's not self-conscious about it. That's the thing.
Yeah.
I think a lot of filmmakers are just self-conscious about it because they're like, oh, this is all lame. But Cronenberg is like he's a serious guy. I think he's like one of our most serious artists
Mhm.
in popular cinema,
Yeah.
right? And it's so obvious that the technology used in the shrouds, which there's a lot of, he's putting it in because this is how he interacts with technology, where he's
Yeah.
talking about like not talking about, but like the film is like, oh, the Cassell character is on FaceTime, is
Mhm.
sending text messages, is on the phone talking to on he's in the Tesla
Yeah.
talking on the phone in the Tesla, right?
Mhm.
Or they're talking about like using an iPad, or he's in the bath scrolling like
Yeah, yeah.
browser on the
Yeah,
iPad. Like
yeah.
this is just how David Cronenberg interacts with technology in his life. So of course it's
No,
gonna
yeah, well, it's a lot
make
of
its way into
thinking,
the
"Okay,
movie.
what would I
Like
do in this situation?" "Oh, I would, like, look something up on the internet." "Okay, that's in the movie." Like, that's how the movie it's
yeah,
a lot of, like
yeah.
I feel like when you're writing scripts and stuff, people tend to, like okay, you think about what you would do, and you're like, "Oh, I don't wanna put that in a movie," so I have to, like, think of it a way to, like,
You have to
you
write
know
around the fact that we would just use
exactly.
our phone. Yeah,
And this movie is very much like, "No, this is how, like, there would be, this, whatever." It's like it's very if you're looking up conspiracy theories, you're doing it on, like, Wikipedia or Google, like, you're just typing into it, like so I don't know. I love the approach of it, and this is such as interesting. And there's also this line. I think it works so well in his kind of universe because there's a line of like, "This is really what's happening," and then it's like futuristic. It's like he's kind of putting in futuristic kind of things, or even like with the shroud stuff. It's like this technology probably like you probably could do this. We haven't like is
it's
like
an
like the
MRI machine is a real
exactly,
thing,
that's
which
what
is
I'm like, it's
basically
like
what the
it
shrouds are. Yeah,
technologically it can, like, happen, it's just, like, they haven't no one tried to do it. So, like, it's, like,
yeah,
not so far-fetched, it was kind of putting things that don't exist right next to things that do exist, where it's like with a Tesla, it's like he drives a Tesla, that's just what he
yeah,
has as a car, so he's like, "This is how my life like, my life is," so I
yeah.
kind of put it in the movie.
And
Um,
Teslas like are kind of like kind of high tech. There's that big ass screen in the middle of
yeah,
the Tesla. It's like just real,
mhm.
Yeah,
Well, yeah, it's kind of I don't know, I think the approach to it is very refreshing, but also he's such like the best guy to do it because of just like his like approach to cinema is a unique one. And I think it's a good example of like what tech like phones and stuff can bring to a film because I think it adds this movie would be so different. I don't know how you do this because the movie's kind of ingrained in the text of the film is like about the technology and the body.
that's also part of why I think this movie is so special. There's a variety of reasons, right?
Yeah.
But because the world of the film the technology is so ingrained into the world of the film
Mhm.
that it makes the world feel so much closer than a lot of other movies because our own world is so ingrained with technology where it's like we
Yeah.
use our phones for everything. I'm talking to you on the computer right now. I spend a lot
Yeah,
of time at
yeah,
my
yeah,
computer
yeah, yeah.
when I'm not doing something else, It's like this is that's kind of how we just
Yeah.
experience life, right? And the fact that that's the same thing in this movie, it does make it feel closer. Uh uh, Unlike some other, it's interesting. It's interesting. Uh,
Yeah. Well, I think like sometimes when like if you're making a movie and you're like avoiding cell phones and computers and stuff like that, you're almost creating a world that's just it's just so different from the one we live in now, and which is fine. Like obviously this is not a one for one of our world, and it's like but when you're trying to capture this quote unquote like human experience, like the modern human experience, right? That has so much to do with technology. So I think you're missing that. Like it's tough to capture like okay, what is like a life of an average person now? without you can't do it without tech. It's just like that's and I think
Yeah.
one distinction that he made, that I think was interesting, was talking about how, like, a lot of times you see, like, sci-fi movies, alien technology, and, like, the early, like, 1920s and, like, those sci-fi movies, like, everything that would be, like, high tech now or you would see now, it's really, like, it's very alien, where this is all man-made tech, which is, like,
Yeah.
the tech is still human, which is and that's an interesting kind of distinction that he made where I thought about well, it's like all of his films are very or like his films are very about the body and this human stuff. So even though it's like tech and like high tech and whatever and screens and whatever, it's still like a human creation, which I found kind of an interesting distinction.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Um Diane Kruger plays three characters in this movie
She does.
who are all basically one character also. Uh it's
Yeah, yeah.
it's a little unbelievable. Because it's like really, I've been thinking about it. I think that it's one of those performances that are so good and kind of so it's interesting. It is, I think, one of the best performances I've seen in a second, right?
Okay,
But
okay.
I would not classify it as a standout performance.
Interesting. And
You know
like
what I
in the
mean?
movie,
In the movie, it does not stand out because
sure.
I think unless you're actively thinking about it, you don't even realize that it's the same actress playing all three of these
No,
characters.
it's like it's
Even though,
very you're like, "Is it?" And then it
yeah,
because one, it's like she's playing like the AI and
yes,
then she's playing like sisters, but one of them's dead. So it's like a lot of like you're seeing her in like a dream sequence or whatever. And but
yeah,
they're dressed up to look different. So there's you could kind of pass it off as like three different actresses pretty
yeah.
easily.
But there's similarities between all three of the is like so essential to the text
Yeah,
as well. It's I don't know. It's so that's like that decision is so interesting, and Diane Kruger, I mean, just so successful, like and unbelievably successful
yeah.
in doing that. The dreams I think are really interesting because as a movie about grief, right?
Mhm.
Um, some people have a lot of thoughts about this, but like as a movie
Yeah.
about grief and about a movie about uh, the body and missing the body, so
Mhm.
specifically,
Yeah.
all of his dreams kind of being centered on like the most intimate thing you do with somebody's body is like have sex, and
Uh-huh.
not maybe not the most, but it is one of the most intimate things you do with your partner is have sex, and all
Mhm.
the dreams being centered as like, oh, it's like this loss of doing this kind of mutual ritual,
Yeah.
because one, she's literally losing her body parts, right, and then also as that is happening, too weak. She's like, she's too weak, too fragile, right, to do this mutual ritual,
Yeah.
that as near the center of their relationship, and that is a difficult thing as well, to kind of grapple with, and all of the dreams being centered as that, I think, is really interesting.
It
uh
it just there's a distinction of the grief of a romantic partner than like the grief of like your aunt or something, or like your uncle, or even your dad or your mom. There's a difference in that, but there's also it's very sad scenes where you know it's like she she's losing her body, but she's like there's a sadness of like she can't um it's like it's one thing that she can't, have sex, but she also like she can't give him, like it's like there's that element, like there's the relationship there is like I don't know, there's almost that sadness for her.
yes,
That
well,
she's
sex
more
is
sad
already
that
embarrassing for
yeah,
people.
yeah.
Yeah. No, I'm saying, yeah,
No,
well, yeah, yeah,
that's
yeah.
what I'm saying,
Like,
but
it's
it's
like,
like
yeah, it's
there's
already embarrassing for people where it's like it's a dance, and and it could
mhm,
be embarrassing to even communicate. But a
mhm.
lot of the time it's like you want the other person wants the person A wants person B to it's very self-conscious, right? So person
Yeah,
A would want person B to be getting the most, right? They don't want to be doing something wrong, or
uh-huh,
be unpresentable or whatever. It's like I think that sex is can be a very embarrassing self-conscious thing with your partner, but that comes from love, from like you being like, nervous because of how much you care about them. And then like I can only imagine like how much that's amplified from her position for she's like literally too weak to have sex or and like
Yeah, well,
losing,
there's
you
like
know.
I don't know how to describe the scene, but there's a sequence where you know he holds her and like this like really really loud like bone break sound
Yeah, it's like
happens,
glass is
and it's
shattering.
like a jump scare of like the worst noise you ever heard because like he
Yeah.
breaks her hip by just like holding her, and it's like so sad, because like the simple like you know affectionate kind of hold of just like two people like causes pain and like they can't really hold each other because it's hurting her, and that's like there's that sadness of that. So I don't know, that's like a very it kind of summarizes the movie a little bit, not I mean summarizes, but that's a big element of the film is that sequence where he wants to hold her, like she wants to be held and he wants to hold her, but they
Yeah.
kind of like they can't because of it, it's literally breaking her.
Yeah. Yeah. Uh, no, it's I think it's very and also positioning all of those as these surreal dreams
Hmm.
instead of memories, I
Yeah.
think is very interesting and kind of makes it more powerful in a way because it's letting us into the mind of
Mhm.
how the
Y-
our character, our lead character is thinking about her instead of, you know.
Yeah. No, it's more about like how he kind of is feeling about the situation or how the
Yeah.
situation is in his head, and he sees it as like a very sad one. Like it's very
Yes.
like the fact that, you know, him holding his partner like causes her pain is like is
Mhm.
that's a sad situation that
Even you
he kind of
saying
is.
that is like
Yeah, it's
heartbreaking,
no,
right?
it's that's why.
Yeah.
So like that is kind of what he's kind of it's almost like this nightmare, this continuous like nightmare in his head
I
of that.
I think something really interesting about this film also is this jealousy part of it because we're talking about how he misses
Yeah.
her body, right? And the whole thing is kind of about like holding on to her body uh and I think that I don't know how you feel about this, right? But I do think that in romantic relationships, a lot of the time there is maybe this isn't kind of specifically more of a like a male centered point of perspective,
Okay.
but no, bear with me, okay?
Okay, I
It's
know, keep going.
no, there is like this sense of ownership and romance, right? No, not like in a weird
Keep
way.
going.
No, but like but there is a sense where it's like, in monogamy, it is like
Like a
ownership sounds
protectiveness? Or is that
no,
what
it
are you
is
trying to
it's so he is jealous of her doctor
Oh, yes, yes, yes.
because her doctor i- is getting her. Her doctor is
Just
like
cutting her
is
off.
no, like literally
Oh, like
like
time?
getting actual parts of her body,
Okay, yes.
right? That he does not that he doesn't get,
Yes.
right? You know what I'm
No, I
saying?
get it.
And I think that there is like this piece of ownership where it's like I feel like I'm coming across weird. I'm trying not to.
No,
I
no.
think what I'm saying is like reasonable. Where it's like and I'm not saying it's justified or whatever. That's not what I'm getting at. But I do think that our main character does feel like a sense of ownership over his wife, but maybe not in like a super weird way, but in the sense where it's like, that's my wife, when she dies, I want to have her. Or it's even like this
Mhm,
idea in monogamy where it's like you don't have sex with other people in a monogamous relationship, right? It is
mhm.
like this
Yeah.
it's like you there's like a mutual ownership,
So,
or
like, in, like,
of each other's
there's
bodies.
almost like this, like, okay, he's by removing parts of her body, it's
He's like
almost like a
stealing parts of
sexual
her.
kind of, like it's
Yeah.
like cheating almost by, like, this guy
Yeah, I think
sort of
that's how the character
there
feels.
is,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
a level of, like yeah, it's also, like, it's very interesting because it's
Because
almost he's, like, taking these things away too. It's like no also but
yeah.
it's also, like so since the doctor is taking these things away,
And also
it's not only that he doesn't have them anymore, it's like she doesn't have them anymore. So it's like I don't know, there's a weird, like,
no, but
piece
do
where
you understand what I'm getting at? Like,
yeah,
yeah,
it was
it is
interesting,
interesting.
well, I think also one of my favorite parts about this film kind of it revolves with the Doctor, but also just a bunch of other stuff, is the conspiracy theorist
Well,
element of the
that's
film.
yes, yes.
And I love the way that it doesn't really go anywhere, because it almost the film kind of gives you this idea of like, okay, we're now gonna like get into some like real mystery stuff, and we're gonna get to the bottom of this, and we're gonna figure out what exactly happened here and what foul play went on, and it kind of comes down to like this thing of grief, and it's so relevant today of like you know sad stuff happens, and we like immediately like we had to find a reasoning for it. We have to like some foul play must have happened, something must have happened. There has to be something bigger, some kind of corruption that led to this death. No death can just be so simple. And it kind of the kind of rabbit hole spiraling that happens when something tragic happens, and that you have to kind of put that thing to it. And there's so much that there's kind of these characters trying to put reasoning on why exactly she died, and like whose fault it was, right?
Yeah, whose
um
fault? Yeah.
which I think is really fascinating, and I never really seen something like that before in a film where they kind of set up this like mystery.
Well, yeah, so the conspiracy theory is like a big part of the second half of this film
Hmm.
where and I saw this movie with somebody, and after we watched the movie, we were walking around and just talking about it
Hmm.
a little bit, and they asked me, "Oh, like, what do I think actually happened? Like, what do I think?"
Yeah,
And and I kind of answered, and I was like, nothing, because I
yeah,
don't think the
yeah,
movie's real, right?" It's because like the movie, the text of the film is kind of about how like it doesn't matter, right? Because the movie's
yeah.
about him. The movie's not even about his wife. The movie's about him and his grieving and his kind of trying to move on. Uh, right. So and he kind of becomes intertwined with his late wife's sister, who is played by the same actress, and like
Hmm.
he keeps saying like, "Oh, you have her body," and all of these things, right? And she becomes aroused by conspiracy theory,
Yeah,
by like the conspiracies, right? So they kind of just have this bit where it's like they just are making shit up, it's just like they're just
yeah.
like making
Well,
stuff up.
there was actually bringing that up, it reminded me like David Cronenberg was talking about like how there's a kind of arousal, maybe not that's not what he said, but like there's kind of like there's a joy you get from conspiracy theories, and like the reason, like a lot of reasoning behind like why you come up with conspiracy theories or like follow them is like this idea of like, oh, I know things that everyone else doesn't know, and like I am like I am the smart person here, and like I actually can see through all this bullshit, and I know the truth. And like it's like it puts value on you because you believe this kind of conspiracy theory that everyone else is dumb, and I kind of know what actually happened here. And that there's like a kind of almost dopamine rush that you get from that. So there's that element of that there where it's like, it feels good to investigate and like put the reasoning on why things happen. So I feel like you kind of feel like you're in control in this kind of place of like where death is such like this uncontrollable thing where you aren't in control, and you aren't in control of your life. You could die right now. Like, you can't really, you're not in control of that. So the conspiracy theory element like kind of puts you in that kind of control where you like,
Yeah.
I know what's actually happening here, and
And the conspiracy part of the film, it kind of bubbles up. It starts early on with like, oh, something's not right. What's going
well,
on?
yeah, it's like
And
who the
it
fuck
bubbles.
trashed my place? Like,
Yeah. And it bubbles and it swells and it kind of gets more like the web kind of gets more complicated and spread out,
mhm.
I think. And so again, this is kind of how I am interpreting the film, right? Until it gets to a point where it doesn't matter anymore,
Yeah.
where it gets so crazy where it's like, okay, this isn't none of it matters, right? And then I think our character gets to a point where he moves on,
Well, yeah,
he
the ending is
yeah,
very fascinating.
where he moves on. So we kind of talked about this doctor character where his her oncologist or her cancer doctor, right, of his dead wife,
Mhm.
she was like in a romantic relationship before they met, before they being like our main character and his wife.
Yeah.
They were in a romantic character before they met, so he was already kind of jealous of this guy, and
Yeah.
then he became more jealous because it's like, oh, he's like taking her body, like he's like having these very intimate moments with her that I can't have, uh,
I
and
think
there's like a jealousy there,
I forget the
and
doctor's
then
name, but I think their relationship's really interesting because he doesn't really know he doesn't know like anything about the guy or like what he looks like or anything. So like I think it's like a moment where like they see like a version of him in the grave and he like doesn't recognize him. And I think it's very
yeah,
funny because he has this like very one-sided beef with this doctor and
yeah.
he has like the other guy's like has no idea. Like it's very
Well,
fascinating relationship they have.
and he they keep talking about how he's saving his grave for right next to his wife,
Mhm, mhm,
right? And he's like, "Yeah, when I die, I'm gonna be buried right next to her because I want to stay with her forever,"
mhm.
And that's like, and he's so steadfast with that. And then, at the end of the movie, that doctor that he's jealous of is in that grave next to her,
Yeah, yeah.
and that is so fucking interesting to me. That's such an interesting kind of metaphor, I guess, for what is going on in his brain, because I think that, and we could talk about whether or not it's even appropriate, right, for this character.
Mhm.
But it's like, I really think that he just feels like he lost her to this guy that he was jealous of. And I think this is kind of how he ended up dealing with it and like
Yeah.
moving on. And like now, at the end of the movie, he's in this new romantic relationship in this new country.
Yeah. Well, it's
Really
almost like
interesting.
it's an interesting kind of thing where like even before his her death, he was kind of like going crazy. He was kind of like losing, and like her being sick was kind of driving him a little nuts. And then like
Yeah.
after she dies, like he has nothing. Like there's nothing, nobody else to like really kind of make him feel not crazy. Like it's just kind of like he's kind of a loose cannon there, and he kind of needs to like once he finds something to like kind of replace that kind of hole of like I don't know. There's an element of he is kind of losing it and trying to figure out and kind of make sense to it. But once he kind of moves on, he doesn't really need to make sense of it anymore. Um,
Yeah. I, and I think that as an image of him moving on, the image of him moving on being the this person that he is so jealous of, that he would kind of was obsessing over, right? This doctor that he kind of mentally felt like he lost his wife to, like an intimate, like romantic way, which is bizarre. Also, like he's like, okay, then be together. It's like,
yeah,
and like it's like at the end of this life, like you are together now, and now I am not with you. Like I have lost you in this twilight of your life to this doctor, and like that's kind of how he it feels like that's kind of how he has thought about it, and that's how he was able to move on. Was Yeah, and I think he even says that like he
hmm
imagines his wife, and his
yeah,
wife is like, oh, because he's leaving, like he's moving away, so he's not going to be married with her, and he's like, oh, like, why did you're leaving? And he's like, no, I gave you what you wanted, I gave you Dr. Eckler. And it's kind of how he's thinking about it. I don't know, it's interesting. I don't know,
yeah.
oh yeah, Guy Pearce is in this movie.
hmm
um he's good. He's plays like a little fucking freak, little weird guy.
Yeah, it was. Well, when I first saw this, it was funny because it was like going from him in the Brutalist to him in the Shrouds, and it was a lot of Guy Pearce at once. But it did kind of highlight like how he is just like one of our one of our great actors right now. He's just so awesome. It's a very different performance. He's super like kind of like a slimy loser because he's like the ex to the twin that is of the
The sister, yeah.
yeah, the sister of the main character's ex-wife. So there's this kind of like weird relationship, and there's some jealousy in there of
Yeah.
who is getting the attention. And he's like a big element of that conspiracy theorist kind of plot lines, as he's like operating a lot of stuff, and how he's also like how he's like the IT guy for the movie. He like comes over and like helps with things. And is like, hey, this is this is how we fix this, or this is what he kind of is helping out with that aspect of the film.
Yeah. The only other thing I wanted to say about the Shrouds, I guess,
Yeah.
was that I really like how literary the dialogue is.
Uh-huh.
I think it's very interesting. I think when you listen to the characters speak, it's almost like you're hearing like an audiobook with how literary it is. I don't know if you feel similar about that, but
Interesting.
um
I don't know. I know people have had issues with the dialogue, and like that's what some people like don't care about it. I don't know. I'd have to revisit it and think about that aspect of it, but I do like it. I think it's there's a like Vincent Cassel swears, and there's like scenes where there's a very interesting way that he delivers some of that dialogue. Um, that but I don't know. I'd have to think about it more about the literary aspect of it. But it's interesting when you're talking about literary and then like technology and like the very
right.
modern like kind of AI
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah. No, I mean really really great movie about like I don't know, like a lot of stuff. Like like technology and how
Yeah.
that kind of like intersects with our life and how you how you grieve
Hmm.
with that. I don't know. It's really yeah. The Shrouds, best movie of the year
It's interesting,
if we're counting it like that.
especially when I was talking about like seeing a long time because it's still one that like I feel like I have to chew on more, and it kind of it lives with you, and there's so much to kind of dig it deeper into, and you know just as this is like an only an hour episode or whatever, there's so much to go into with this movie, and I think that's a positive of how rich it is.
Would you want to be buried in a little shroud uh
Yeah, I
so
don't
that
know. It's a weird.
your partner could look at your bones?
It's a weird. Well, I don't know. I wouldn't even want to look at that either. I wouldn't. I don't know if I
Yeah,
want to be on
no,
either
nobody
end of.
would.
It's a weird kind
Yeah.
of technology, but it's an interesting kind of aspect of, um, when we're looking at like, okay, we have this with the technology we have now. Like, what if we went this? What if we went this way? What if what if someone was really interested in this thing? You know, um,
Yeah.
I don't know. It's an interesting because it's almost like a look into the future, but also just a very reflective look into like the present at the same time.
Yeah.
Um,
No, that's a really good way to put it. Um,
and I think it's funny because when David Cronenberg, in his 80s, is kind of talking about like how he's able to maybe use maybe technology. He's able to use technology more, maybe better than like kind of his peers or like other 80-year-olds. But we kind of talked about it earlier. I was like, this is his relationship to phones, and uh, I think some maybe other directors have just other different relationships to it because we kind of talked about how some people avoid it, but everyone's kind of having a different relationship with how they use stuff like that and what they use and their kind of how well versed they are in things and what they're able to. It's a very interesting thing that I wish people would dive into more because it's very complex and personal. Though I think there's a personal element to it, a human element that some people maybe overlook because of the tech aspect of it.
yeah. Yeah. Um,
The Shrouds.
The Shrouds. No, if you haven't seen it, probably shouldn't have listened to us talk about it,
Yeah, yeah.
but definitely like one of the most important I think texts that you could see this year. That's come out recently. Really, really
Mm-hmm.
good movie. And I think that's pretty much it for this episode. We do have to touch a little bit on some news, but we don't have to go
Yeah.
really what we need to talk about here is like the possibility of what we're calling movie
Oh, okay.
tariffs.
Yeah.
Um and how Donald Trump, the president of the United States, said that he's going to enact a tariff on movies to bring movies back to America.
Mm-hmm.
What does that mean?
What's like a big question is like, how do you tariff a movie? Like, what does this mean? Very much like it's just kind of word salad. We'll have to see what this means. And then John Voight comes on like a super villain with some like broadcast, and he's like, it was my idea. So
Yeah,
it's bizarre.
No, I don't know. Well, because it's like some of our I think Mission Impossible is such a good example of this, where it's like one of our great cultural like Hollywood exports.
Mhm.
That movie is not shot in America. You
Yeah.
know, it's like globe trotting. They're going around the world. Like I don't.
Yeah. Well,
It's
I
I
don't know,
don't
there
understand.
was something like Trump was like, "James Bond will be fine," and, it's like it's all like none of it really makes any sense, and that's
And
so
also,
it's a classic, like, okay, there's a problem, not a lot of things are being filmed in America. How do we fix it? And then it's like that's not how you fix it. Okay. And so just like a slap a tariff on it, which will just make it more expensive to other places. But the
well, like
reason why people are shooting other places, so it's so expensive to shoot here. So if we made it less
where is
expensive to shoot here, that would fix your problem. But
where is the tariff even
well,
being
yeah, that's also part of it. Like, it
applied?
doesn't make
Is it the salaries of the crew that's being tariffed? Like there's
any
so many questions, you
yeah,
know?
none of it
No, like
makes
literally
any
like it's like
sense.
yeah, I don't know. And also, one final bit of news here that's related. Deadline announced a Donald Trump biopic
Oh yes,
with a $100 million
but
budget
it's
that
gonna
will be
it's
much
yeah,
kinder than The Apprentice. Yes,
yeah, which uh,
whatever that means. Whatever the
whatever.
fuck. How do you spend
Much
$100 million on a Donald Trump biopic, dude? That's like a Marvel movie. That's like the budget for
Yeah.
Thunderbolts.
I guess these guys have money though. I mean, it's like it's just like a big like propaganda. Like I don't know. It
Yeah,
makes
I don't
sense,
fucking know.
but it's ridiculous.
Yeah, no, it is ridiculous. I was saying that they should hold on. I was saying that they should get uh Jai uh Jai's fuck.
What?
Zheng. How do you say his name? The guy that did Caught by the Tides?
Oh, yes, yes, yes.
Yeah, they should get and Pickpocket and stuff.
They should get
They should get
him to
him to do
do
the
it.
Donald Trump biopic. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, there's an idea.
Thank you everybody for watching our episode about the Shrouds.
Mhm,
Long time coming, the return of Owen.
mhm.
I have no idea what we're doing. I don't know what we're doing next week.
We'll be here.
We'll be here. Something will get uploaded.
Something will get uploaded.
Absolutely. Okay. Yeah, that's it. Welcome back, everybody. I can't. Why do I always want to do a stupid voice?
You're like it's like it's so YouTube core.